Hi, this is Yardane Frankel.
And I'm Pesach Benson. We're with Honest Reporting.
We're doing our weekly podcast where we discuss how the media are covering Israel.
And today we're talking about photo bias.
Right. This is a little bit different than just bias in the media in general. What do we mean by photo bias?
So when we talk about photo bias, we're talking about images that distort the reality of what's really going on in a situation. And these are distortions that are made with a purpose.
Yeah, this is a very serious issue. Oftentimes, I think a picture that accompanies a news story carries so much more weight than even that news story. People look at the headlines and the pictures, and if it's something that reflects negatively on Israel or distorts the reality somehow, that's going to make an impact.
It makes a bigger impact because you see an image, you don't even have to read the image, you just see it and it goes boom, it's right in your face.
Right. Let's show people what we're talking about. Let's look at this first photograph over here.
So this one, so we're looking
what are we seeing?
Okay, so we're looking at an Associated Press photo, and this was taken in near Hebron, and the soldier is on patrol in the West Bank.
It looks like
village.
He's about to shoot this little girl, huh?
Well, that's the thing. That's the distortion. He's in the image. You see a soldier and a gun, and the gun is pointed right straight at this girl's heart.
Right. Now we consulted with David Katz, an imagery analyst.
He's a photographer and an imagery analyst.
Also, we asked him about this picture.
Yeah, and he pointed out that with a change of angle or a slightly different lens, the reality, you would see a different reality. That this soldier is walking, he's actually walking perpendicular to the girl. The gun is pointing
He's
ahead
not pointing it at her.
The gun is pointed ahead of him, which is not at the girl.
And if you look, the soldier, he's looking down at the ground. If he was in a hostile situation where he was even considering using force, believe me, the soldiers, they're not looking down, everything. They know what they're doing. But the photographer wanted this idea of this heavily armed, with the combat vest and the helmet and everything, this heavily armed soldier and this little girl.
The soldier's looking down while this girl's berating him, and it almost looks like there's something shameful about this soldier being on patrol.
Yeah, but that does not reflect the reality of that incident, and that's why that's an example of photo bias. And
that's one example, because we see lots of photos.
Right, let's look at this AP photo for starters.
Okay, so here, this was a Gaza funeral of a terrorist, and we're looking at the Associated Press photo first.
Look at him with the hands in there. It's like he's a rock star.
He's like a rock star. The hands are being raised up. They're praising the rock star, whatever you want to call it.
Right, but David pointed out he thought that this one was cropped. In other words, they cut something out. So we're going to look at what they cut out.
So let's go down. We're gonna pull the camera back a little bit, and now we're going to see Reuters. Mm-hmm. And okay, so you see more hands. And if you look a little bit lower down, you see there's a photographer lifting a camera. Okay, so you have like a little bit more context filled in.
So the biggest image from Getty over here.
Yeah, let's see the best context from AFP. So here we have all the photographers. It looks like there's more photographers than mourners here.
There's twice as many people with cameras as there are mourners. And that's the reality of that. It's almost like, I'd say a funeral's a photo op, but when you have more people with cameras there than mourners, that's certainly a image that's designed to project an idea there, which is very different than that initial thing we saw from AP. And that's another example of photo bias. So this is one that we wrote about in Honest Reporting.
Now this next one here, this is an example of bias where the photographer chose the angle that he wanted.
These kids are in jail, right? That's what it looks like. They're in prison.
It looks like kids are
Palestinian
in jail.
Children.
And with Gaza's in the caption.
Right.
So
and the caption does not say they're in prison. It doesn't need people just looking at this. They're not going to read through it.
It's an association. You don't have to. Again, you don't read the article. The image just hits you in the face, and that's it. It's a subliminal message.
But let's look at the reality over here. The next shot.
The reality is that this was taken at an event that had nothing to do with protesting Israel.
Right. If you look in the background on either right or left side, you'll see there's these gates in front of this factory with these iron bars. Gates that anybody can walk around. In fact, people were walking back and forth through them all day. No children were in any way in any jail or prison. They just were holding on to bars, and the photographer said, hey, wouldn't that make a good shot?
It fits their storyline. That's the problem. The photographers have a certain mentality of what the image is, what the storyline should be, and they choose photos. They line up their photos in the way that in a way
tell
the
wrong story, tell the false story.
It sticks with the story of their preconceived notions.
Right, but that's also that's photo bias. It's we're not seeing the reality of what's going on. Nobody who saw this first picture, which ran in the Independent, would know that these kids could walk back and forth on either side of this fence. And by the way, Honest Reporting is going to be coming out with a incredible photo bias study, a very comprehensive study, and we're excited about that. That should be in the next few months.
Yeah, it's something we've been working on for a little bit. Started recently.
And another study we're coming out with. I've been working on a study, an in-depth analysis of the Washington Post.
Tell us about that.
Sure. What I found, we've done these with the BBC and the New York Times and others. This is the first time we've looked at the Washington Post, where we look at every article over a few months' time, in depth. So we judge everything and see if there's trends. And one trend that I found was that a lot of times, maybe in the interest of like balance or something, the Washington Post would publish photos or write articles that would quote non-credible sources, or basically they let themselves be used by these anti-Israel propagandists. Look at this picture over here that appeared during the time. This was on their photo gallery that was up every day for about 2 weeks while they were covering the flotilla incident.
Down with Israeli terrorism.
From this group, the International Migrants Alliance, with one person there. If they want to say it's part of the story, these mass protests around the world, show us a picture of a mass protest with a few thousand people, but one person with a sign. And I found, if you go to the Washington Post site, if you find this gallery, you'll see that many times they had pictures of just a single person with some anti-Israel sign. For some reason, that's news. That doesn't sound like news to me. What does this photograph give us? How does that give us information about the flotilla incident?
Doesn't convey much.
Doesn't. So you'll be able to see all these studies and everything. You'll get them in the email if you're signed up.
There's more than just photos in your study, right?
Oh yeah, it's articles and everything. We really look in depth. But you can get everything if you come to our website, HonestReporting.com.
We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter.
And if you are upset by media bias, by photo bias, then come join us and follow us. And for Honest Reporting, this is Yardain Frankel.
And I'm Pesach Benson.
We'll talk to you next week.